Good day, everyone. After I read the first issue of KARMEN months back and made a video about it, I was so interested in the story I could not wait for the 5 issues or the 5 months for the story to conclude. So I ordered the original Spanish language graphic novel. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It provoked emotions and ideas. And when I finished it, I watched the film Amelie and later on Wings of Desire by Wim Wenders. The graphic novel also got me thinking of Boris Pasternak's Dr. Zhivago, a book that I read 20 years ago this month. And now I'm rereading it again. And the Divine Comedy. Not the Inferno, but the Purgatory section of the Divine Comedy. The, the book of the graphic novel and what it has thematically, at least with the Divine Comedy, is in the Divine Comedy you have basically moments of contrition, then confession, penance, and then absolution. And in some ways, Carmen is very similar in the story of Catalina, a woman who commits suicide. And there's no heaven and hell in this story, but you have a chance for reincarnation, either um, in a better life or you're going to continue because of what you did. You're going to continue with this sort of life in the next, and or maybe worse. But for those of you who have read the comic, and this is basically for you all, you're already familiar with what happens in the story. Now, Catalina does get a second chance in this life. She's like Lazarus, so to speak. But when she comes back, she's a different person. She's been spiritually renewed, not in the sense of faith, no, but in the way as she's a better person, and also how she treats others, basically loving kindness. And but first, I'm going to show you the differences in the graphic novel and the comic. First is the size, which is quite apparent here, as you can see. Big difference. It's going to be oversized. When the graphic novel is oversized. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the comic originally is 5 issues. However, Carmen is basically 3 chapters and an epilogue. The first part is about Kati's story, her background, her friendship with Cisco. She meets Carmen. She's committed suicide. And by the end, she realizes what she's done. And now she's terribly guilty. She's outside her bedroom here. Her bedroom here, I'm sorry, in the living room. Her parents are here. They can't see her. But she neglected her parents. She never called them. She was never really there for them. So this is how it ends. Now, the reason I say it's chapter 1, it's not Dexter's chapter 1, but when you see this, it's a blank page. So you have time to contemplate the events of part 1. Part 2, we've got the meeting Enrique. And this chapter is basically about love. This man who does not give up on love in life nor in death. I mean, love lives beyond death in this story. Basically, he never gave up. He was in love with this girl. She was out of his league, but it didn't stop him. He persevered. Gatti gave up in life, and this has an impact on her. So this is basically part 2. This is how part 2 ends, where Gatti says, en mi siguiente vida le diré que les quiero más. In my next life, I'll tell my parents that I love them. I'll tell them more often. Por favor, deja que me acuerde de todo esto. Please let me remember all this. Now, this is a different translation than the English version. The English version says, please help me remember to tell them that I love them. Now, this is much, much broader. This is about the whole events that have transpired basically to be on her conscience. It's not about that specific event. And finally, the third part is when Gati gets a chance to get a second chance at life, and she's basically reborn, like Lazarus. Again, she comes back like Lazarus, so to speak. And it has this beautiful ending here, where, unfortunately for him, Rika, he does not. He'll be reincarnated in another life, and he's holding on to that ring, and hopefully he'll have. Maybe in the other life, he will be with someone like Maria, so to speak. And that's the end. And then now you have 10 to 12 pages of the epilogue, or the coda, as I call it. So now, as you all know, Gati has no memory of what has transpired. I mean, after her suicide. But she has these little moments of deja vu, little dreams, and she writes them down. And all that is referenced, there's a lot of references to early on in the book, where these is an exposition on dreams or epiphanies that we have in life. It changes us, so to speak, or gives a new perspective. And now I'm going to get to the part that is fundamental, is different from the comic. Here you have Gati. Her Francisco says something about flying, and it triggers a memory. And as you remember from the story, flying is a theme in the story. She's actually physically flying. But also in Psalms, in the Old Testament, Psalms 102 and 103, which were about the self-afflicted, the people who were just overwhelmed by life. And I think in Psalm 103, the eagle represents renewal. And she's been writing down because she's been having these images of what did transpire, but she thinks they're dreams. She can't understand them. And they're kind of freaking her out, so to speak. But she tears them out from her journal, and after Cisco suggested of burning them, sharing her ideas with the world. And she throws out the plane, and then you turn the page, and you see this beautiful page here. I remember when I saw this, I said, wow. I think this is the image that I saw when I thought about the film Amelie. When I saw this, I thought of that beautiful ending with Amelie. You've seen the film where she's on a little scooter with men that, that she's in love with. And now she realizes he's in love with her. And it's this beautiful ending. However, if you are reading the comic, something is missing in this page. Let's get to that here. Okay, we're here, right? Now you turn the page. There's the plane flying. And then you get this image here. Wait a minute, but where is this image? It's not there. It was left out. So this was the problem for me for two reasons. One, you left out the page. But second, there's no wow factor. When you turn this, you see this, and then you see this, and it's almost like it's getting to the end too fast. And you don't have any time to you don't expect this. And I turn this page, and you see these two majestic pages here. Where Kati is now basically spiritually renewed. She's a better person. She treats others with loving kindness. And then now she's doing things she would never dare to do before she committed suicide. And then there's something else in the story. Now we get to the translation issues. Here, Carmen is talking to Kati about her being a better version of herself when she comes back. I'll read it what it says. Ser una versión mejor de ti misma, que atraería buenos acontecimientos. The word acontecimientos means incidents, so it means events. So basically, you can be a better person of yourself and you're going to attract good things. In other words, good karma, which is basically what happens here. Once she starts having memories of the past, of what transpired, she goes back, finds the ring of Enrique, and takes it to Maria. She thought the ring was lost. Now and then basically has a memory of the man who killed her husband. Her fiance. So in a way, it's good karma. Now she's bringing good karma to others. However, in the English translation, it doesn't say that. It's about her being a better version of herself, but also creating good stuff. I think that's what it says. But it's a different meaning entirely of what, and it doesn't really make much sense when we get to this part here, like I mentioned. And then also another structure in the story. You see this part here, okay? You see this beautiful page here. En mi siguiente vida le diré que los quiero más. In my next life, I wish I could, I want to be able to tell my parents, if I had a next life, that I love them more often. I would tell them that. Por favor, deja que me acuerde de todo esto. Please, let me remember all this. In a way, as for a conscience, right? In the English version, it says, help me remember to tell them that I love them. That's the reason she wants to remember that. I'm thinking, no, that's not what she's saying at all. And then you get this beautiful page here. No quiero volver a ser como soy. I don't want to be the person I am. But in the comic, this is how they break this up. Second issue. Third issue. What is that? I guess the fourth issue. Oh, okay. This is issue number 4. Now we get to the third issue. Third issue ends with her here. In my next life, I'll never stop telling them that I love them. Please, make it so I remember to do that. Again, that's not what she says. And then that ends there. Where's this? This begins in the next issue. That's how the next issue begins. Please, make it so I remember to do that. I don't want to be the person I once was, or the person I am. It goes perfect. But no, they changed that. And another change they do is the part about the dreams. In the original comic, the graphic novel, there you have Katy and Cisco as kids, 10 years in the past, the present, and we get that here. Then we get these 2 panels of where she lives, her neighborhood. We meet Carmen. And we get this image of the mirror. And we turn the page and we continue, right? Now in the first issue, this is how it's broken up. You see that, the exposition. And then you have it here. It shouldn't be there. It should be at the end, right here. Instead, they put the mirror image. Now, I guess it does work in the sense from this part with here. It does work, but the mirror image, as we know, we see it at the end. Not at the end, but after this panel here. Okay. Now, finally, I'm just going to show you differences in the art. Well, no, not done yet. Um, let me show you how it's broken up in the comic. Basically, part one or chapter one is the first issue, the second issue, and part of the third issue. This is how part one ends and the graphic novel. Part two begins here. And concludes. You see this, you see that. Concludes right here. See? And now we get into the third part. And that continues through issue 5. It begins here. It continues all, well, it begins there, but it continues here. Goes all the way to this beautiful page here. And then you just automatically turn the page and it begins, the epilogue, or the coda, as I call it. Again, there's no time to contemplate between each chapter. Or reflect and think about it. And then you don't see, this beautiful page that should be here, her flying overhead. And also the impact. You don't have the emotional impact. I don't know if the editors worked with March on this. I don't know how they decided to do this. But again, it doesn't fundamentally change the story, but it is a different reading experience. And certainly the element of flying, like I mentioned earlier, is like in Psalms 102 and 103. You have it's the Psalms in the Bible are these two Psalms. People who are self-afflicted, overwhelmed by life, but then you have the eagle, which is spiritual renewal, flying spiritual renewal in the case of Catalina. Next year, when they publish this as a graphic novel in English, I don't know what they're going to follow. Are they going to follow the comic? Or are they going to follow the original graphic novel in structure? And are they going to include the page or put some of the pages in order, the order they're supposed to be? I don't know. In any event, thank you for viewing, and I highly recommend Carmen, even in the singles. It's still a fine work. And along with Barry Windsor Smith's Monsters, my favorite reads in the comic medium this year.